On August the 12th, 2021, a lawsuit was filed in New York against Horatio Sanz, SNL Studios, NBC Universal, and 20 other fictitious persons, people involved but not yet identified. The allegations in the suit strike at the heart of NBC and implicate executives and SNL cast members in sexual abuse. Here, I'm going to briefly tell you all about it.
It was the last writers' party. I don't think they're allowed to have them anymore.
I don't think you could party on 17 anymore because of what happened.
Dude, it was...
What you did.
Me?
It was just us and a few friends, and then we just get really, really drunk.
Really, I'd like to let a lawsuit like this play out a bit more before commenting on it, but the allegations are so damaging, I can't see NBC not doing everything in their power to settle. If you want to check out the complaint in full, there's a link in the description below, which you can't see because you're watching this on a television. So, https:// The suit is being brought by an unnamed woman, referred to here as Jane Doe, and alleges that from 2000 to 2002, when she was 15 to 17 years old, she was sexually abused by Horatio Sanz, and that allegedly other employees of SNL and NBC Universal witnessed the abuse, did nothing about it, and possibly even facilitated it. It's worth noting that this lawsuit is made possible by a 2019 change in New York law regarding the statute of limitations, allowing victims of child sex abuse more time to come forward and seek justice. According to the complaint, in 1999 the plaintiff, Jane Doe, then 14 years old and a huge fan of Saturday Night Live, posted regularly on various websites, message boards, and chat rooms about SNL. She was also administrator of a fan website dedicated to news surrounding SNL, and particularly cast member Jimmy Fallon. Jane Doe would soon discover that cast members and staff of SNL enjoyed reading these fan websites. It was a simpler time. In January of 2000, Jane Doe received an email from Jimmy Fallon and Horatio Sanz from an NBC email account, and at that point Sanz, and I quote the lawsuit, began his process of grooming Jane Doe, as they began chatting on AOL Instant Messenger. In October of 2000, Jane Doe and Sanz met in person for the first time when she was 15 years old, at NBC after a taping of SNL. Throughout the rest of 2000 and into 2001, Jane Doe continued to be a fan of the show and travelled to New York from out of state multiple times to attend tapings. Then, in May of the following year, when Doe was 16, she was admitted to one of SNL's after parties. At the party, the complaint says, she was served alcohol and spent time with Sanz. The next week, she was again admitted by cast members to an after-party within NBC Studios. And this corridor down here leads to the vats where we grow our writing staff. At one point during the visit, Sanz was sitting on a couch in the NBC offices, telling stories to a group of 6 to 10 people, including NBC employees, and motioned for Jane Doe to sit in his lap while he told stories with his arms around her. Then, everyone went up to the NBC rooftop to watch the sunrise. From August of 2001, Sanz shifted his conversations with Doe to AOL Instant Messenger, under the username Marble Chomper. Sanz told the 16-year-old to keep their discussions on Instant Messenger a secret, which she promised to do. Over time, he began to regularly leak information about SNL hosts and musical guests to Jane Doe to publish on her website. Around this time, the complaint says, an incessant exchange of communications began to take place, where Sands wanted to discuss sex and encouraged her to take sexual photographs. He especially wanted to discuss sex acts in a degrading manner, calling the 16-year-old a slut and a bitch. In late September 2001, Jane Doe again went to an SNL after-party, where she was served alcohol and sat with Jimmy Fallon and Horatio Sands drinking together. Sands gave her a rose, which he did many times when they met. After this, Sands continued to regularly invite her to after-parties. On November the 17th, 2001, at one of these parties, Doe sat in a VIP area with Jimmy Fallon and others, where they all drank beer in the presence of NBC employees. Jane Doe and Jimmy Fallon talked about her being in high school, and he asked what she wanted to study in college and her upcoming SATs. The complaint says the table became very quiet when plaintiff disclosed she was a junior in high school. Later at the party, Jimmy Fallon introduced her to producer Lorne Michaels, and they discussed her Jimmy Fallon website. Jane Doe says that she was never asked for identification before being served alcohol at these parties, and that it was known that she was in high school. She continued to attend the parties at least another 4 times in the beginning of 2002. The chats between Doe and Sands continued, and he continued to solicit sexual information and photographs from her. The complaint also alleges that this type of behavior wasn't abnormal, that defendant Sands was not the only SNL cast member and NBC employee who openly preyed upon women and young girls. They go on to say that Jane Doe brought a 17-year-old friend to one of these parties, and that an SNL cast member openly sexually harassed her. Doe received warnings to stay away from another cast member because he sexually assaulted or harassed another of her friends. Later, Sands told one of Doe's friends to stop telling people about her assault by that cast member. In May 2002, Sands gave Doe a ride in a limousine paid for and operated by NBC Universal. That night, they attended 2 separate SNL parties. One of them took place at another cast member's loft, where Sands openly had his arms around Doe while talking to other NBC employees, cast members, and guests. On this night, it is alleged that Sands sexually assaulted Doe in sight of other party attendees, including NBC employees. One of the NBC employees who witnessed it apparently commented, "Are you fucking serious?" The police were not called. In late May 2002, Doe says that she went to an SNL finale party, where she was admitted by Sands and Fallon and openly consumed alcohol, including while talking to executive producer Michael Shoemaker. After that, Sands continued to put her on guest lists for SNL after-parties, where they would drink and engage in drug use. They continued chatting online throughout her time in high school. Doe soon became depressed and ashamed, and self-medicated with drugs. As she left high school and entered college, she continued to struggle with shame and depression. She found it hard to cope. She began to self-harm. She still talked to Sands, who became more controlling and emotionally abusive over time. In 2005, Doe was hospitalized for mental health treatment. Afterward, she reached out to Sands about her hospitalization, and he reacted with annoyance before steering the conversation toward talking about sex. They continued to talk for many years, with Sands behaving, as the lawsuit has it, in a manipulative, degrading, insulting, and abusive way toward her, while pressuring her to send sexual photographs and to remain silent about their relationship. In 2019, Sands and Doe communicated about their relationship via text message for about 4 hours, and some of these messages are included in the complaint. He talks about how he used to masturbate to their conversations and her photos when she was a minor, and goes on to apologize to her for how he behaved at the time, claiming that he is a different person now. He goes on to say, "I'm very sorry. If you want to Me Too me, you have every right. Just believe me, I'm not like that anymore." Since the filing of the lawsuit, Sands' attorney, Andrew Brettler, has called the claims ludicrous and categorically false, and says that Doe is just trying to get a lot of money out of him. He told Vulture, before filing this lawsuit anonymously, she demanded $7.5 million in exchange for her silence. We of course refused and will vigorously contest these totally meritless claims. Which is interesting to me because the lawyers for Doe have all of these very incriminating text messages where Sands repeatedly admits to wrongdoing, and Doe makes accusations that can be easily corroborated or not by witnesses. Very famous witnesses, who, in some sort of deposition, might be compelled legally to tell the truth about not calling out a child abuser because he was in a position of power in the organization they belonged to. That could make people look bad. $7.5 million is a bargain for NBC if, and that's a big if, Brettler's statement is true. I hope this isn't settled and does indeed go to a jury trial, as the lawsuit demands. Only then can we know who, from the cast members and the executives of the period, enabled this. Justice is not paying a fine for sexual assault. Neither is putting it all on Sands when others were at it too. It's worth mentioning that NBC has dealt with plenty of accusations of mishandling sexual assault allegations in the past. There are many instances, but I think it's most interesting that in 2017, NBC came under scrutiny for their mishandling of the allegations against former Today Show host Matt Lauer, who was accused of sexual assault by 3 employees of NBC before they fired him in 2017. In 2019, Ronan Farrow claimed in his book Catch and Kill that NBC executives tried to cover up his reporting on the allegations against Harvey Weinstein. Farrow says that multiple sources told him that Weinstein had informed NBC executives that he had information about Matt Lauer's behavior and was capable of revealing it, insinuating that if NBC published allegations against Weinstein, Weinstein would go public with information he had on Lauer. In the end, NBC told Farrow that he wasn't allowed to work on the Weinstein story anymore on their network. Not, of course, because they caved to Weinstein's threat that if they exposed him, he would expose Lauer and who knows who else as abusers too, but because Farrow's story didn't meet their strict editorial standards. Farrow went on to do his incredible story at The New Yorker and won a Pulitzer. Obviously, if the allegations are true, there is something rotten at NBC. And unfortunately, I think this will end up with them paying out and having to admit no wrongdoing, or perhaps saying that their corporate culture has changed while the enablers get off scot-free. Personally, I don't think this is anything to do with corporate culture. I think this is about accountability in any setting where an important person has so much power that approaching them or questioning them might have negative implications such as losing your job or risking your career. The table went very quiet when plaintiff disclosed that she was a junior in high school. Yeah, sounds about right.